Hey, Christian.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
I know.
Yeah.
It's been
You
a
doing all
while
right?
since I see anybody for
I
that matter.
know. Crazy, crazy times, huh?
Yeah. I got my appointment to go get the vaccination Thursday, so
Oh, okay.
that'd be
Nice.
nice, anyways. And I
Yeah.
might
Well,
be
that's
freed up
good.
a bit. So,
Right. Good.
so how you doing with real estate? You coming back into it? You enjoying it?
Yeah. I've been in it 2 years already. Can you believe it?
I know. We
I
miss you as
know.
a TL. That was
I know. Thanks.
a lot of work, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's going good. I'm kind of more right now. I mean, I have some listings like in the pipeline,
Yeah.
one that's going to be coming on hopefully soon, and then another one that's not going to come on till they break ground on a new property. So,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm really focusing on like this investment thing right now, looking for properties and stuff and going on showing.
Yeah, I got a little interest in it myself. I've done it a few times, but
Yeah.
it kind of depends on what kind of cash flows around. So
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah. This year's been kind of weird, though, hasn't it? I mean, it's the end of the year. I was getting all kinds of stuff going, and
Yeah.
then now it's just died again. So
Yeah. I mean, the inventory for the listings is lower than it was last year. Like it's
I
really
know.
low now. So
I
kind
put
of
one on
shocking.
in Quincy, and it sold within like 2 or 3 days, and I had 8 offers on it,
Wow.
and it finally went for 50 grand over asking price, and I thought I wasn't going to get past the appraisal process, and then the bank turned around and waived the appraisal process. It's like,
Yeah.
and they were only like 30% down. I mean, usually I only seen that with cash buyers, not
Right.
but
Yeah. We actually talked about that this morning at
anything
Masterminds. I
goes.
mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy that the house prices and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the appraisals for that matter.
yeah. Those are
My camera's always so dark. Like you can never see me. That's better, I guess.
yeah. Sometimes if you change the light and you put it behind you
Oh,
instead of
really? Behind me? Oh, maybe I should
yeah,
do that.
sometimes that gives a little more brightness to the pictures and stuff.
Oh my God, look at me. Gonna be moving my lights around. Hey, Kate, star of the
Hey,
show today.
she
Kate
is.
Richard.
Hi, Kate. How are you? She's on mute.
Sorry,
There you are.
I'm here. Ready to go.
Hey.
We have no snow.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
bust, huh? That was terrible.
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 Got about
Don't get
3
me all
inches of
excited.
slush.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
we have a
Yeah.
bunch of rain. Oh
Yep.
well. And I had $1,000 bet with my husband about this storm, and I lost.
Oh no! You
Don't
should
worry.
never bet on the weather. They never are accurate,
I have
ever.
time to redeem myself. It's one more storm with 6 inches or more before the end of the year. So
Yeah.
Well, you
see,
got time.
I still got
Never
time.
know. Yeah. You were hoping to cash in today, but
I was.
guess you have to wait.
I know.
That's awesome.
I'm actually gonna come right back.
Yeah, sure. No, I should like try to do this, like, see if
I'm
this
gonna
works.
grab a coffee before it starts.
There you go. You get time. No better. Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave. I can't hear you if you're talking. You're not on mute, so while you're connecting. Christine, Margaret, hola,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Your hair looks cool. When did you decide to do that again? You had bangs like not too long ago, right?
I've had bangs for, I don't know, last couple months.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
they look cute.
Thanks.
I need to do something. My hairdresser is like never around anymore. She's taken a course and like I think she works one day a month.
Oh gosh,
I never want to swap from her, but I might have to.
right. So these were good chapters, huh? I like highlighted half the sections.
I'm doing
So
audio.
good.
I'm doing the audio book.
Oh yeah. I like to like highlight. I can't help it. And then I write them in another book. All the things I like. And I still can't retain it. Good morning.
Good
Early
morning.
afternoon. There's Ben.
There he is.
There's Ben. How you feeling, Ben?
He's on mute.
Yep.
You could yell out the window, we'd still hear me so loud.
That's true.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. Little technical difficulties, that's all. They're here, okay.
Hey, Linda. You don't know, just don't
Hey,
say
Kristen.
anything. You just keep driving. It's all right.
I'm like,
You-
where's that
Don't look at
unmute
me.
button?
yeah, no, it's okay. Be on mute. Don't look. Tom, did you read the pages? Y'all caught up?
Yes, yep, all caught up.
Awesome.
I got my book right here,
There you go.
my little
Awesome,
bookmark,
awesome.
see?
It was good. The two good chapters that we just read, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought
Some
great.
soul searching.
Mm-hmm. A lot of good quotes.
What's up, Huger?
I need to take
What's
Billy
up,
D's
Billy
my
D?
big Y again.
I know, right? Patrick. Awesome. Well, it's 11:01, so let's get started, right? Let's lead by example and be on time, which you all are. All right, awesome. So let's talk about our ahas from the last two chapters. What do you got? What quotes did you like?
I got
I'll
one.
start. You got one? Good, go.
Thinking is thinking. It takes just as much time and energy to think small as it does to think big.
Yep, love that. Love that.
a
If
good
you
one.
choose, yep, if you would choose, you are, oh no, I'm sorry. It's really a game of hide and seek. If you choose, you are now it and must seek. I thought that was cool. What else you got? I'll just read all mine if you want. What do you got?
I like I said earlier, I wasn't joking, is I think I really need to identify my big Y.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I feel bad saying it. I don't think I have one.
You don't have to feel bad. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, I just
Why?
need to hone in on that for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why are you doing what you're doing, you know? I liked your attitude determines your altitude. That was awesome. I thought that was great. What else? Any ahas?
I like the one on page 89, the visual, about capital and consumption and how it went up and down. And it's more like, I think we all know it, but to have it there on the piece of, well, at least I kind of knew it, but to have it as a visual was pretty powerful.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and they talked about that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
About what you're doing with your money. Are you more of an investor or a consumer?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And are you taking that money that you receive in to look for other opportunities, or are you just taking that money that you're receiving and spending it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One great thing about real estate, it is forgiving if you keep it.
Yep.
So that means don't panic if you're down. As long as you keep it, it'll come back.
Yep.
Important.
It's very low risk, right? Low risk.
It's like
That's
the
what Gary
stock
said.
market, you don't panic.
Right, there you go.
It's the same thing.
Yep. I mean, we do this for a living, right? So we're in a better seat than, somebody else that doesn't do this for a living, as far as finding properties and understanding and, how to rent them out and how to determine what you're going to charge for rent. What else you got? These chapters were awesome. So much good content.
I like stick with what you know and don't try to go into areas that will hurt you.
Yeah, like Bitcoin.
Yes.
What is that anyways?
And I shared the exercise with my son about pay me a penny today and just double it every day and I'll work for that instead. That was
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to my son about that, the penny,
yes.
and that was, I don't think he believed it, and he was listening to it.
I had my son read the page.
Yeah,
Gary Keller's son didn't either, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it doesn't, you'd think it wouldn't make sense because it starts with a penny.
Yes.
Yep.
I think the other thing too is just pushing your fears. I mean, again, a visual, page 84, I tend to work best with those. It's just, staying in the box of $5,000. Just keep pushing yourself to the next one and think bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's 2021 breakthrough for me. So, which is, just having that visual. Again, I'm a visual learner. So just seeing that and then listening to what they were talking about and how to push through and think bigger was huge.
Yeah.
I guess your aha moment.
There you go. Yeah. Because if you're thinking at the 5,000 level, that's where you're going to stay, really, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be boxed in there. Yeah.
I just like the myths in general, about all the different misconceptions. I think it's so easy to fall into the traps. I know when I first started, I felt like all the good investments were taken too, and that's like such a mindset of, and timing the market. I hear so many people say that now. It's like we're at the top. It's too late. We missed the ride up. Those are all things that I find very interesting, but also are myths.
Yeah, and they talked about that, right? Like the timing of it, and the timing, it's not really about the timing. It's about if you're looking for things constantly, then there's the timing, right? Ben and I talked about this the other day, when you're, and again, it comes back to that mindset and like that focus on this, because like ever since I started doing this, and I talked to my brother about it a lot because we're actually looking for an investment property together, and there's nothing on the market. And who wants to go up against all these people and like just run the price up? So because we're talking about a lot, like I'm sending out letters, but we're also getting calls from people that my brother I talked to years ago saying, hey, if you ever decide that you want to sell this multifamily, like give me a call. And they're like literally just calling all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing, that, what you put out there, will come back to you. So we'll see what happens, but definitely look off market because there's nothing on.
I think it's how you think about things too when you have a different mindset. It's the information that is in front of you, you process a little bit differently than if you were not looking for, because I remember when we first started, all of the sudden these investment opportunities kind of came up and I was like, why were these never there before? But they probably were. I
Mhm.
just didn't think about them. You know, I didn't
Right.
think about them as investments. I didn't think about the potential that I could be an, you know, that
Mhm.
anything like that could happen to me. So I think I think it's really your mindset too.
Definitely. And being prepared. And I know, Kate, we're going to talk about that later. Like if you're not prepared, that was at the beginning of the book too, where Gary Keller wanted to buy that property and said, well, let me think about it. And then it was already gone, right? And he missed a really good opportunity there. So you have to be ready to jump when the time comes.
Mhm.
Yep. I actually just talked to a good realtor friend of mine this morning for quite a bit. And I noted, because he's got a listing on the market that my clients are going to go take a look at, but he bought it back in August for $240, and it was a flip project, and it's on the market right now for $450. And will he get more than that? Yeah, probably.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just so impressed with that. And the difference between him and me, he has the confidence to, I don't know, make these steps to, building wealth.
Mhm. Yeah. And again, I think that is, again, all the mindset.
Yep.
They defined the word, investment, right? Invest, to commit money or capital in order to gain a financial return, right? It doesn't say anything about risk in there, but yet we put that in there on our own. You know, we're always looking at the risky side. You know, when we're thinking about investment properties, the first thing that we're asking people is like, well, who didn't pay you? How many times you get called for a leaky toilet? But nobody asks about the good things like, hey, how much money are you making every month? And hey, how much money have you made so far on that? We always go to the negative. So to get that out of our heads is really where we need to be if we really truly do want to invest in property. Ben, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna quick story that some of the people here know that I got a call about a few months ago from a guy in Chicago. He bought a house, sight unseen, online auction, gave it to me. It's really not a pretty house. Kate won't let us put it on our Facebook page, by the way. But anyways, it's a little house in Pembroke. This guy lives in Chicago. He did a few things, threw like $5,000 on it. I put it on the market last week. I think he's gonna make $30,000. He's probably, if I had to guess, talking to this guy, he's probably spent a total of maybe a couple hours on this project. And I'm just thinking to myself, why didn't I think of that? I mean, he's in Chicago. I live in Plymouth. I'm from Pembroke. Kate lives in Pembroke. Pembroke's one of our main towns. He's going to turn this thing over like 30 grand, a quick 30 grand in a couple hours worth of work. So I think, we just got to open our eyes a little bit. We're real estate agents. The opportunities are there. Trying to do this, but I just found the whole thing to be interesting. He buys houses sight unseen all over the country, but he's an interesting guy, and I just thought it was an interesting story.
Yeah, and he didn't flip it. Like there's no updated kitchen or baths or any of that stuff.
Right.
There's right, Ben?
Yeah, no, again, Kate literally will not let me publicize this house.
I've seen it. I've seen it. I don't blame her.
It's that bad. So, but anyways, he did nothing. I actually walked onto the property. There was a big hole in the ground, 20 feet down into a cesspool. So I had to make him hire a guy to cover the cesspool. This guy, maybe $5,000 he threw at it. I think he paid, I'm not going to what he paid, what he didn't pay, because that's what we sold it for. I'm just telling you, I think with my numbers, close to $30,000 he's making. And again, I just talked to the guy quite a bit, and he's like, yeah, maybe a couple hours into this, you know what I mean? And he just sits on his computer all day, going all over the country doing this stuff. Obviously very risky in some respects, but this market carried him. He's going to make a nice little hit on this thing. And now he's got another one for me that he wants me to do. So it's a good little relationship on my end.
Just what I would say is that if Ben and I were presented with this particular opportunity, and because of our own inherent biases, we would have said no.
Mhm.
So again, sometimes when you go outside of your own market, your bias towards certain things is diminished. And that can be somewhat helpful when you're thinking about all the risk factors. You don't know all of them because you don't live in that environment. But we, already have so many preconceived notions about real estate in this area, sometimes that in and of itself can prevent you from taking that first step. So just something to think about.
How often do we ask when we see something like this guy you're talking about, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
All the time. Yep. Awesome. Anybody else have anything else to add? Comment? Aha about?
I think that definitely your perspective is a big, at least for me, like this book definitely opened my eyes to like how I was thinking. I just finished it last week and I have a whole like new mindset on what I'm supposed to do and what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's cool for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. That's the point, right? That's the point of this. Awesome. Great. All right. So we're going to jump into our interview with Kate Richard. Kate, wave to all the people. There she is. Awesome. All right. So we're going to get going. I'm sure you're going to find this very interesting. So Kate, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, Ben and I have a team, real estate team. I think most people know that. I've been in real estate for 10 years. And I did not, plan to be a real estate agent prior to 2010. I was doing a bunch of other things. Ben was my neighbor and kind of the rest is history.
He dragged you in.
Yes.
And now you're the star of the team.
I don't know about that, but maybe.
Awesome. So you've been in real estate for 10 years.
Yep.
How long have you been a real estate investor?
I bought my first property in 2016.
Okay. So 6 years in, bought your first property. And what was that first property that you purchased?
I actually bought a house on the Cape to do a VRBO, like a vacation rental.
Okay. And you still own that?
I still own it. Yep.
So you bought it as a vacation home. You do still use as a vacation home, but you also.
Yeah, we really purchased it with the intent of renting it though.
Okay.
We do use it personally, but so just a little bit, can I tell you a little bit about how things kind of started? So in 2016, I went to Texas with Ben and a bunch of other people from the office, and Steve Zeb was there. And at that meeting, one of the classes, he asked me, he said, "Do you own real estate yet?" And I said, "My house." Yeah, I own my house. And he said, okay. He said, "Well, you're never really going to get to a level of financial freedom unless you start to buy real estate." And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I guess I can put that on my to-do list. And one of my limiting beliefs at the time was just the down payment amount. But in 2016, the reason that I decided on a vacation rental as my first investment property was because you could buy a vacation property with 10% down. And so that alone helps me have a little bit more confidence to get that first property underway. And it also was something that I felt like I could control as opposed to like a long-term rental. So really, Steve was the reason that I went home and decided to buy a vacation property. I think, he just really was encouraging, and that was how that whole process really started.
Awesome. How often do you rent it out a year? Would you say?
So we rent the house out all summer with the exception of July 4th week and a couple weeks in June. We do use it off season all the time, and it's really been nice during the pandemic to have a place to go to. But this year we'll hopefully things will return to normal, and my kids are busy in the summer, so we'll probably rent it even May, June, July, and August, and part of September.
And are they weekly rentals?
Weekly.
Or weekly, yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So were you nervous to buy the first property?
We were very nervous. The property that we purchased needed a tremendous amount of work. And my husband is in finance. He's not a handy guy. He was very overwhelmed. And when we went he was actually traveling for business when we found the property. And when we first went there, he was like, no way. And I was like, I love it. So it was definitely nerve-wracking. I think we closed in March, and we had to get it up and rented by that summer. So we had so much work to do. And I was also worried about like how much we could get weekly, and also if people would end up renting it. And we had just done all this work to this house, and we made it so nice. And were people going to destroy it? And there's so many unknowns. All the questions were nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that said, doing it all over, everything's nice and new now. Have you had issues with tenants going in there and destroying it and having to replace stuff, or how's that gone so far?
Not really. We've had a couple rough tenants for sure. But at this point, we just have repeats. I screen them myself, and we furnish the place with very inexpensive furnishings. It looks really nice, but none of that happened. And weekly rentals, you're not worried. Like, the things that people worry about are evictions, having people stay. None of that is a problem with these weekly rentals. It's more just having people come and party and possibly, destroy or break things. We've had to replace, carpets and things like that. But again, those are all tax write-offs too. So, I mean, it's really worked out. And in fact, I was so nervous that first year about getting a rental in place that we just put it out there for $2,000 a week. And we had every single week in the summer booked in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, oh my gosh. And then, we didn't obviously charge enough that first year, but we increased it, the following year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Zeb just came on, so he missed all of the nice things you said about him, but oh well, he'll have to watch the replay.
I've told him 1,000,000 times.
You can always start over.
No. Moving along. All right. So Kate, how many doors do you currently own right now, including your Cape House?
4.
4. Okay. All right. So you have four properties, correct? Because you own single families, not multifamilies or
Correct.
Condos. All right. So they're all single family homes. So, coming back from, what we talked about last week with Zeb, where he's looking at multis or building, Kate's looking at it more of the single family type homes. So you'll see through these series that everybody that we're interviewing has a different take, and they invest in different things. And we'll talk about like why they choose that route. So there's no wrong route. It's about what you're comfortable with, right? So to the next question, Kate, we know one property is down the Cape. Where are the other 3?
So the other 3 are actually in Huntsville, Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Here I come.
Yeah. So Huntsville, we thought about buying additional Cape rentals. However, that market is difficult to really, get a return. So, our goal with that Cape house is to try to cover the cost of the mortgage, taxes and insurance, and then be able to enjoy it as a family. And eventually, we'd want to use that property for our personal use. But after listening to a million podcasts and just reading a lot of books and understanding a little bit more about investments in general, we decided that we probably should look into more of a traditional, year-round rental type market. And so that's what we are now focused on for the most part.
Mm-hmm. So you got into buying down in Alabama because of a podcast. Now, how did you actually go and find the properties since you're up here? And as we discussed, you haven't even seen the properties.
Right. So, so I listened to the podcast and did a lot of research about the area, started to look, into that market down there. I reached out to some people on Bigger Pockets, which is, I think a lot of people probably listen to Bigger Pockets.
Mm-hmm.
I connected with some people down in that area. And what ended up happening was, I did want to drive down to just see Huntsville myself in person. And so I did do that. I went over right after Thanksgiving a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time I met with my agent down there, John White, and he showed us around. And, you know, we did see some properties down there at the time just to get a sense of the different markets. And, you know, I just decided that this was an area that I believed was up and coming, and I liked the demographics of what was happening there. And so I had actually put an offer sight unseen on a property before I left, but I didn't get it. And so when I was down there, we looked at, none of the properties fit my criteria, but I did quickly after I left, make an offer on a property down there and got it. So I've never seen any of the houses that I own down there. I've never been to them ever.
Wow. So what is your criteria?
So I started, so it's really hard. So this is what I was talking about with biases. It's really hard, I think, sometimes to take your own personal desires away from what you're purchasing in terms of rentals. And what I want and what I want for my family is totally not what other people would want. So that's kind of nice when you're buying and trusting people who live in the area and know the rental market. So my criteria has evolved a little bit because the first property I bought was a total home run. It was an off-market deal. It was a brick home, which is now something that I would have as a criteria for Alabama. It was already had a tenant in place, a long-term tenant. So people there rent a lot more frequently than they do here. A lot of people don't own their homes and never really intend to. It was in a nice up and coming area where I was able to purchase it under value. And so that was something that, you know, was kind of important to me. I think in that area too, now I would want a brick home, and it would have to be in certain towns specifically, and then also newer, because there's a lot of new construction down there. So that's kind of what you're competing against.
Mm-hmm. And you do it based on like how many bedrooms, how many baths? Like, are you looking for families? You're looking for single tenants?
Yeah. Oh, so I don't participate in any of the selection of the tenants at all. I'm totally, that's one of the other reasons that I wanted to go out of state, because I didn't need another job up here. And I was nervous about getting too involved. Like if you have a property that's in the next town over and, you know, there's a clogged toilet or something like that, I was afraid that I would be called and I would want to try to have my husband and I go over and try to fix. I didn't need any of that. I didn't want to get involved in any of that. So I have somebody down there that takes care of all of those things for me. I don't participate in any of the selection. Dogs are welcome. I don't care. I've never even seen the house. So it's fine.
Okay. But as far as like, I want something that's at least 3 bedrooms.
Yes.
Like, do you have those type, because like I said, sometimes like people only want to deal with like having, like 4 1-bedroom apartments, right? You know what I mean? So like, are you like catering more to a families? Are you looking for something that has more than 2 bedrooms, or does that even matter to you?
No, definitely would want 3 bedrooms down there. 3 bedrooms. They're basically all ranch style homes. So ranch style homes, no septic system because there's no Title V restrictions down there at all. So, just things like that. My second property I bought down there was a foreclosure. Not something I'd ever do again, long distance. I know some people have a lot of luck with it. It just wasn't my cup of tea. The other properties, the 2 others that were moving like ready, they just, people just walked into them and started renting them. The other one needed a lot of work, and it's just been kind of a little bit of a headache along the way with that one, but that one cash flows the most. So it's kind of like you have to know what your goals are and priorities and figure out what to purchase.
So since you don't live down there and you don't travel down there, are you online looking for property, or is your agent sending you things when they find something, or are they looking strictly only off market to give you those opportunities, or how do you have that set up?
Yeah. So the agent that, and Ben owns property down there too. The agent that we work with down there, John White, is amazing. He is born and bred, so he's lived there his whole life. He owns his own investment properties. So he, again, when you start to like think about New England and like what criteria we look for, and then you start to apply it down there, he quickly pulls you back to reality, and it's like, no. And so, you know, he's sending me properties. So if, like, I haven't got any properties from him recently because I kind of put everything on pause for a bit, but he will just go to the properties, videotape the whole thing and send it to me. And he'll tell me what he thinks. And then he'll tell us what, you know, what we could probably get it for and what we could rent it for.
Okay.
So he's really good about that. And he's definitely like thinks you should buy in the low, like 100 range. Like getting too high is, you know, you're going to have trouble with that 1% rule that we talked about down there.
Yep. And does he do do you do home inspections on the properties? Does
Yep.
he just,
attends.
he's there for your, as your, you know,
Yeah, and actually
can't think of
not
the word I'm
always.
thinking about.
Not always. So they don't always go to the home inspections. It's a totally different scenario there than here. They don't always go, but they'll send us the report.
So
And
who doesn't usually go? Like your agent won't go to
Agent
represent
doesn't
you?
always go.
No? Okay.
No.
So you'll send a home inspector there.
Yep.
The home inspector will do their thing and then the home inspector sends you the report.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
the agent too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
And then whatever needs to be fixed, negotiated, whatever, you just handle that with the agent and that's it. Now, does he rent them out for you as well? Or is that the management company that handles that?
Yeah, he is an agent under the management company. So the management company manages them. Yep, you sign a contract with them. It's a 10% fee, and they handle everything.
Okay, yeah, I know I jumped a little ahead there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so Kate's not dealing with the tenants. As she said earlier, she's not choosing the tenants. The management company is. Then their monthly, you know, their rent, they're sending to Kate, but they've taken a 10%, you know, management fee,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
If there's something wrong with the property, leaky toilet, whatever,
Mhm.
they're handling all of that.
Correct. Yep.
So
So
basically you're just collecting a check.
unless it were something big, like I did have to replace a heating system in one of the units. So they're not going to just, you know, agree to that on my behalf without talking
Sure.
to me first.
Yeah.
And so they talked to me about it. And, you know, if I agree to do the repair, then I can either set up like a deposit into that account, or they'll just take it off, you know, the rental income for that month. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's leveraged more obviously, right? Than it is with your Cape house.
Exactly. And once I started to own, well, the first property I bought down there, you know, I really was like, oh, okay. So this is what investment properties are really supposed to be, because it pays you money every month. The Cape house, you know, of course, we also love it ourselves. So we spend tons of money just doing things down there that, you know, the renters don't care about, but we do it for personal. So, and also, you know, we pay the cable bill on the Cape, we pay the gas, we pay the electricity. Down there, it's literally the tenant pays all of those things. So it's totally, you know, it's a money maker every month. Money gets deposited into my account on the 15th. That's how it works.
Perfect. That's awesome. So as far as managing the finances of the property, you know, just making sure, like you said, one's cash flow is better than the other. Are you handling that yourself or do you have somebody doing that for you?
No. So the management company does all the finances. They send me a profit and loss for the for each property. They tell you, you know, what you each month they give you what itemized deductions were taken, exactly what you can expect to be deposited into your account. And then at the end of the year, they send you a year recap. So the Cape house is, you know, we kind of take care of like managing those expenses. But again, it's a little bit more, I don't know, fluid, I guess. It's sort of, you know, yeah.
Awesome. All right. So that was my next question. Do you have a P&L on each property? So yes.
Okay. Well, the other thing too, though, just so you know, that the Cape, so one thing to think about too, though, is Alabama, I'm not going to see like this great appreciation. So those are cash flow properties. I didn't purchase them to double my money on my initial investment in terms of like, if I bought something for 150, you know, the chances of it being 300 today are quite low. The Cape house, however, I have more than doubled my money. So I bought that original property for $315. I could probably get almost $650,000 for it now. So, you know, yes, it doesn't cash flow as much, but you know, I have this equity position that you know, is also extremely helpful,
Mhm.
you know, in that. So.
Have you considered selling your Cape House since the prices are outrageous right now?
Yeah, yes, we have. In fact, you know, again, this is just like the mindset that you have to think big, because over the summer, there was a property that, you know, my husband and I wanted to purchase as an investment, but it had a really big price tag. And because of that, our thinking wasn't where it needed to be. And it kind of caught us off guard. So I'll just be totally frank with you. Like the Cape House we bought for $315. I think we owe about $255 on it, and it's worth, you know, $600, $650, somewhere in that vicinity.
Well,
yeah, but the thing of it is that there was an oceanfront property that we really wanted to buy. It was listed for over $1 million, and that to us is just so scary. That number, I was like, oh. Like, I don't know. But we knew it was a great opportunity and a great investment. And it could have, you know, now we realize that we didn't actually even need to sell the Cape House to try to purchase that home. But our thinking wasn't big enough at the time. We didn't really understand how to, you know, make the money work, you know, and to, you have to trade up in a certain way in order to build and continue to build wealth, or take that equity and apply it to something else. And, you know, unfortunately it caught us off guard, and we missed out on an opportunity that I'll never forgive myself for $25,000, which was really dumb. I kind of blame Ben for not talking me into it, but whatever. But now I understand, and we're not going to give up the Cape House. But what we're trying to do now is to either to sell it for the right opportunity to buy a larger property in a better location, or to sell it and buy 2 additional houses, or to just take the equity out and apply it to something else that can also generate money.
Mhm.
So if that makes sense. It's difficult, but you know, I didn't even know how much the Cape House was worth when that property came up that we wanted to buy. I didn't even know. I was like, could we get 500? I had no idea, because I hadn't been thinking about it.
Mhm.
So it's just important to always like understand, you know, what your goals are and what you can do to sort of better your position, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and we don't have the Cape Cod MLS, so it makes it more difficult.
Yeah, I do
You know
have
what I
it
mean?
now. I do have
Do
it
you?
now. Yeah. I
Oh,
do.
good. I'll be calling you.
Yeah.
All right.
It's very hard to use though, in my opinion.
Is it? Yeah. Different.
Yeah.
So Patrick has it too, I guess.
Yeah.
So do you set up reserves for each property? Do you have like 3 to 6 months reserves, or?
Yeah, so the house, yes. The house is in Alabama. That money just goes into an account that is just strictly for those properties. I have had some expenses on that foreclosure, so it's been up and down. So, you know, it's been nice because the extra rental that I have in there, you know, pays for those costs.
Mhm.
The Cape House, again, I do have a Cape House account, and that money, because you get paid, so I'm starting to receive rental income now for 2021. So that money gets put into that account and used to pay the mortgage, and then whatever other expenses there are. So
Mhm.
that one is a little bit different, just because we spend money on that house that we wouldn't if we didn't use it ourselves, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just
And then they
ask-
said, yeah.
Sorry, for each home that you have in Alabama, is there a separate account set up, or does it all go in one?
It gets deposited all into one.
All into one.
Mm-hmm. One account. Yeah.
Hey,
No,
Kate,
they said-
can you tell them about the Alabama, like the tenant laws down there? That was another reason that
Oh,
we
yeah.
went down there.
Yeah, so I did thoroughly investigate this market, tried to find out exactly what the, you know, rules were. And basically in Alabama, if you do not pay, you do not stay. The eviction process is less than 4 weeks. I mean, you don't pay, you are kicked out. So, and that was something that, again, I was nervous about. And, you know, all of these, you do have to have a certain trust in your ability as agents and knowing real estate to understand that you're putting this money to work. it's really going to work. It's going to make you money. Yes, there are months where you may not, make as much money as you did the previous month based on repairs, et cetera. But you are, as long as you know your numbers, you're making a sound investment. You're not taking a risk, so to speak. You are making an investment.
Mhm. Yep. And so are they set up like in separate LLCs? Do you just have them all under your name? Are they all under one LLC? How do you handle that?
So you can't purchase real estate for rental purposes, like in an LLC. You can, but they could call the loan due. Okay, so and you can have up to 10 loans personally before you're forced to use commercial product. Okay, so right now, so my husband isn't on any of the Alabama or the Cape House properties. And we did that purposely because we wanted to be able to utilize the financing allowed as a personal, as opposed to going into a commercial product, which costs more money. Until we've exhausted that, then we would convert it into commercial financing. Does that make sense? So you really, if you buy a primary home in an LLC, the bank can call the loan due. Chances are they won't, but they could.
If what? Well, this isn't your resident, like this isn't your primary residence though.
Yeah, if you set it up as an LLC and you just get, regular financing, not commercial.
Yep.
The bank can call that loan due at any time. Yeah, you got to look into it. I don't want to try to be able to explain this because
yeah. Okay,
you have to get commercial financing if you want to put it in an LLC.
Okay. All right.
Chances are they won't call the loan due, but they could.
Because I know you can't purchase a property and then put it like under your name and then put it in LLC. When we had Ariel on, if you were to purchase a property, again, I don't know if it's different or even maybe we're talking about two different things, but if you go to purchase a property, you can set it yourself up in an LLC, purchase a property in the LLC so that you don't, same thing of what you did with your husband. So, if something happens to that property, they're not taking your primary residence.
Right. Yep. Well, but I think you have to look into it.
Yeah. So it's a different type of loan, I guess. Yeah. All right. So that's something that you want to look into before you.
Yeah. And just so you know too, you will pay a higher interest rate for investment property. So like when I purchased the houses, I think the interest rates were probably around 3.5 for regular financing, but investment properties, I paid 5.5. I refinanced 2 of the properties. So now they're down to like a 3.5 rate, but you just have to, put that into calculations in terms of the numbers and your amount.
Right.
The other reason, one other thing I just want to say about Alabama, one of the other reasons that I like to that I want to purchase down there again is the down payments. So the properties are a lot less money. And if God forbid somebody doesn't pay, it's $750 all in. Like it's not $5,000 that I'm going to have to come up with. It's, it's a small amount of money. For me, being slightly risk averse to putting myself in a bad situation, that felt okay. That felt comfortable. I knew I would always be able to come up with $800 to cover a rent for a month or a mortgage. So,
and as far as figuring out how much to charge, you're putting that on your agent to give you the proper, competitive, rent to charge.
Yeah. So the first property I took was under market rents. She had a lease in place, so we had to let that go through. She had been a long-term tenant and wanted to stay. And again, those are some priorities that you have to think about when somebody is a great tenant paying, doesn't make a peep. But she I think she was paying like $1,250 at the time. And then she signed a 2-year lease at $1,500. So it was like, okay, great. And they organized that. I didn't have to have that conversation. I don't do any of that. They're just like, oh, she signed a 2-year lease for $1,500 a month.
So they handle all the leases, and just when they're up, they continue them with that tenant or find somebody else, and they just basically are doing everything. That's amazing.
Yeah. And they like, with one of them that I had a vacancy, they were like, we haven't found the right person yet. So they do a good job finding the right people.
That's great. So do you know if, and you may not even get to the situation, but if you've ever had to charge a late fee?
I
Did that
don't
ever
believe
come up,
anybody's ever been late on my
Okay.
Kristen, can I say one more thing? It's Kate's hour here, so I'm not going to jump in, but two quick things. First of all, down in Alabama where we're invested, the tenants have a real need to pay on time. If they don't pay, it goes on their permanent rental record. That's another whole thing. So they're very eager to pay. And the other thing I want to say about Alabama is I think most of us in this call probably have 401ks and IRAs. And if you look at them, I mean, they're invested all over the world. And I just think that, we're okay with that. We're okay with taking our money, and that's supposed to be safe. But I think as real estate agents in this day and age, I mean, you can listen to, there's a lot of information out there. You can go different places. I'm certainly not only looking in Huntsville. I'd like to go to different areas too. But if you're just willing to open your mind up a little bit, and it seems more risky than I think it really is. That management company Kate and I use down there is amazing. They just take care of everything. It's like a 401k plan with very little to do with it. And you make money off of each month. So just food for thought. That's all.
Awesome. So let's talk about
Huntsville, Alabama is going to become like GameStop, Kit.
Yeah, that's right. Trust me. I'm running it up. Everyone's buying it.
Yes, you are.
I shared with Kristen the podcast that I listened to originally. They kind of got me interested in this area, but it is an area where there's a lot of people that come for, engineering type jobs from California that have temporary livings, requirements. So it's a good market, but yeah, I mean, you got to also diversify with that too.
Awesome. So I know we talked about, let's talk about like investments, regrets, and opportunities. So you did talk about that $1 million property that you didn't purchase. Were there any other opportunities that you passed up that you wish you didn't, or are there any like investment regrets that you have that you did that you wish you didn't do?
Well, so I basically bought all of those properties in Alabama in 1 year. The second property that I bought, I got a little self-confident, and I bought a foreclosure because it was in a zip code that I really wanted to own in. And it was rocky. It was rocky. And I felt like, that property that I purchased, if people don't understand real estate and don't, and if that had been like even maybe my first property that I purchased, I could see why some people get into real estate investment and then quickly get out of it, because it was literally one thing after another. It just one thing after another. I think that if you're investing, and they did everything still, like they did everything, they were amazing. But it was literally just one thing after another. And then the tenant that went in there was the worst tenant I've ever had. And she just like every week there was some kind of call, to the point where I was like, all right, do not answer her. She's calling. But, I think it's still, that property probably has the highest amount of appreciation and it's the best cash flow. My goal wasn't to fix it and flip it by any means. It's a property that, I'm still having somebody else pay the equity down on and all of that good stuff. But I wouldn't buy another foreclosure down there personally. It wouldn't be, I'm okay with a little bit of a less margin on my rental, and pay a little bit more for the property. That's just personally me. And then go through that hassle again.
Right.
Yeah. Because it is cash, right? It's still cash. You still have to come up with the money to make these repairs and to, put the down payments in. The other thing too is the first two properties that I purchased, I did put 25% down because I got caught up in the rate. So I really got caught up in the interest rates. And what does it matter what interest rate I'm paying if I'm not paying the mortgage?
Right.
And that 5%, if I had taken it on both those properties, would have covered all the costs to that foreclosure mess I got into. So, I think, the third one, I put 20% down. Now, the lender that I work with down there, he was kind of like, oh, it's a big difference. And I was like, I don't care. You know, it's either I buy this, you know, and put the 20% down, or I wait because I don't want to put another 5% down. So I think that those are some of the things that I kind of learned. That 5% meant more to me in cash in my pocket than it does on the interest rate that I'm not even paying.
Right, right. So definitely a learning lesson. Definitely something that you can share with people so that we don't make that same error, right?
Yeah.
Do you regret still purchasing at that higher rate, like at that lower rate?
Yeah, I wouldn't do that again.
Yeah,
I would stick with the 20% down.
But it's not deterring you from purchasing more property or moving forward and buying more.
No,
investment
no.
properties.
Those
Okay.
properties make me money every month.
Yep.
And eventually, you know, they'll be paid off. And that's, you know, if you can get 10 of those properties, that is a retirement plan, you know?
Yep, love it. So if you could share only one piece of advice with us, what would it be?
I just get started. I mean, the thing is that, you know, I think, at least from what I hear from people, the biggest issue is that they want to wait because they think the market's going to go down. But if you historically look at real estate, there's very few instances where people say, I wish I bought that property later. You know, people always say, I wish I bought that property sooner. So, you know, I think it's just something to really think about in terms of what your goals are, and just to really just take that first step. And no matter where it is, you know, just try to really learn the market, understand what you're buying, and just kind of do it.
And it's about the cash flow at the end of the day, right?
Well,
like,
I mean, sometimes, but you know, sometimes people are playing for equity too, you know, so
sure, yeah.
It's both. It can be either.
Yep.
It really can be. I mean, some people, the flip model works. You know, I wanted to have a way that we could generate income, you know, when we retire, and when, you know, because who knows, when we save for retirement, nothing's a guarantee. Rental income, people always need houses to live in. So yeah, maybe at some point I may have to bring those rentals down if, God forbid, something changes, or maybe I can increase them, but I'll always be able to rent them. They'll always be rentable.
Kate, I have a quick question for you, and it might be too personal. Are these government rented tenants that are going in there down there?
No.
No? Okay.
No, none of them. So there's like the highest number of like rocket scientists anywhere in the world in Huntsville, Alabama. They have a very educated and a high income to cost of living ratio. So it's a really good market for an educated class of people that need, you know, rentals. There's a lot of transient people because you've got, I think Lockheed Martin is down there. You've got, you know, a bunch of engineering companies in that area that do bring people from California out to work there. They're not going to purchase a home there because they're not planning to stay.
They're just high rents for the price of the properties, which is great. It's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's a different mindset down there. It's hard to explain. It's, you know, the ownership model is not as strong. It's probably more of a transient location. But yeah, Ben, what was the other big company that just went in there? Was it Apple? No. Facebook or something?
It's well, Redstone is down there, and they're a huge government.
Yeah.
They're a huge government contract down there, and that's what Kate says. Like, one of my properties down there, there's an engineer that was a transfer out of Pennsylvania, and they have the most. That town has the most people per capita with MBAs in the entire country because they're all engineers and scientists.
Oh.
So it's an interesting spot for sure.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Kate?
I do.
Okay.
I have a lot, but I'll just pick, I think, maybe the one that maybe Kate, I might be calling you Kate. But, so, you know, how do you handle sort of, you know, because you're so hands off and you have a management company, how do these people sort of earn their trust with you? Because obviously this is your livelihood and these are, you know, they're making decisions that you're not being a part of.
You mean, how do I trust the management team down there?
Yeah, the management team to really be
Yeah.
doing a stellar job.
I mean, well, they got a lot of referrals, like the Bigger Pockets podcast thing. You can actually read I kind of wrote about my experience on Bigger Pockets because people had asked. But you know, I am in general a trusting person, I guess. I just feel that they, showed me from the beginning. First of all, they got me that off list, off market deal, which was huge. And then John, when we first met him, he was just like pulling me back down to reality. He was like, you're not going to make those numbers work. You're not, no, like that's not, you got to think about this in a different way. So he was really, I immediately knew that he had my best interest in mind, and they just do this professionally. So I don't even think about it. Again, I'm not interested in the details that much about this because it's really something that I don't want another job or another thing to worry about. It's really just a thing that I'm saying, okay, I'm going to put my money into this and I'm going to watch the return grow. To Ben's point about the stock market, we put money into, companies that we have no clue what they're doing. It's the same thing, but they've proven that, that they care about the end results, and they will call for bigger items. They don't just make decisions like, like the heating system. They weren't going to make that decision, and they'll send you like a note, like, one of the tenants had like a toilet that had a problem or a sink or something like that. And they will send you a note and say, we're sending a plumber. So I guess if I had a problem with it, I could call them, but I don't bother.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there's other markets. It's not just Huntsville. That just happens to be the one that I chose, but we were looking into other markets as well.
What other ones, excuse me, what other ones were you looking at, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I really like Jacksonville, Florida. That area has a lot of appeal to me. Those were kind of the two areas that were most fun. And Worcester, if you want to be in Massachusetts.
Bill Detremont? No.
Yeah, Billy doesn't.
I'll tell you about Worcester.
Patrick?
A couple of days.
Yeah, I know. Worcester's got a bad rap, but again, that's our own bias. People still need houses there. I went out there. I really was interested in that area. But for me, the risk of the eviction process, people just have horror stories about. I just decided that I was better off to look, elsewhere.
You made a smart choice, Kate.
I still like Worcester.
Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions for Kate? Any ahas?
I have one quick one. You and Ben were saying how educated everyone is down there and the eviction rate is real low. I mean, is that shit luck or did you really do a lot of research into that?
I did a ton of research. I love research. I love to take notes. I definitely looked into it a lot.
So you educated Ben, right? Because Ben doesn't look like a note taker.
I've got so many people that buy houses in Alabama. It's crazy. My neighbor owns one. It's just, it's and she says the same thing too. She's like, of everything I do, that's probably the one, solid investment I have. So yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I'm pushing my wife toward New Hampshire and she goes, we should go to South Carolina and maybe that might be a better option.
Well, so yeah, I mean, for a vacation home or?
Oh no, for rental income, just yeah.
Yeah, so New Hampshire, I had looked at for Lake Winnipesaukee when we were trying to buy the vacation rental, the first property I purchased. I could personally not make the numbers work based on their taxes. So again, you just, but a lot of people do own property up there. It just, you have to really, again, just know what your goals are. And if you really want to cover it or make money, like I said, the Cape House does not really make us, no, it definitely does not make us monthly income. But the appreciation has, that gives us like the $1 million house that I really wanted to purchase. That conversation, if I just owned my primary, and I had never started investing in real estate, that conversation's not even happening. That's like a no way. I wouldn't even, it wouldn't even be on my radar. So it shows you like, you know, the Cape is just that catalyst really helps, you know, build on things.
I think too, just real quick, I think too, it's all those podcasts that we started listening to, Kate. I mean, there's just so much information out there. I mean, I just got referred a listing in Plymouth by a KW agent from North Carolina. He came up anyways, talking to him. He buys houses down there in North Carolina. The area he's in is right near a Army base. And he's like, we're never vacant. If the tenants can't pay, the Army pays for them. So I just think there's a lot of good information out there if you take the time to listen to some of this stuff. And Bigger Pockets is obviously my favorite, but the real estate guys are really good too. And you can get some different perspective from those types of things, you know?
Awesome. Well, this was fantastic, Kate. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
It was nice to hear something that's a little off what we're normally used to hearing, you know, like, oh, this, you know, multifamily here and this condo here. I mean, this is definitely a different take on it.
You know,
So,
the nicest thing here about that there's no bullshit.
What's that?
It's complete. The nicest thing to hear about that there, Kate, is there's no bullshit. It's straight up, and everybody on this call should really understand that. There's no sugarcoating there. It's 100% honesty from day one. I think that's the best thing about it, because you know, you hear a lot of tallywhackers saying this, that, and the other. That's the gospel truth, what Kate's saying.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
awesome, guys. Thank you so much. So next week, we're going to have another wealth building class, okay? The reason being is because the following week is family reunion, and the following week, Dave Jenks is coming. So instead of doing like the every other, I just had to pick the 2 other, you know, Tuesdays that were available. So next Tuesday is the 9th, pages 97 to 126, okay? And I'll be interviewing Christine Blazo next week, okay? So I hope you guys join us for that conversation and bring a friend. And I hope you have an awesome day.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye.